Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
You should not tell us these kind of things because we cannot go out of home now at Spain. I believe it's the same in Portugal yet, and it's very sad for us to be so inside. But I am
all those
used.
confinement things, they're depressing. I mean, I see that you're active, you're reaching out, you're giving your time to organize all those meetings. So I think you are, as a person, you like to interact with people, right?
I think so. I really enjoy being with people more brilliant than me. I don't have any problem with that. Hello.
Okay. Antonio, in Portugal, we can go out also.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vasco. Good morning, everyone. I don't. What time is it? It's time.
Good morning, Antonio.
Morning. Good morning, Lula.
And in Belgium, we cannot go in coffee either. So we are also mainly at home. We can only walk around our house.
Yeah, I really liked your Twitter yesterday about eating local food. Very, very good.
No, but it was funny because the Belgian potato producers have really made this call to everybody to be patriotic, but they want us to eat twice per week fries, which is a bit much. Huh?
Yeah, then afterwards we all need to go to the doctor, of course. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Karel. I had very, very serious problem with my computer yesterday. I thought that I solved it, but this morning again, I had some restart. So if you lose me, I think that the session will continue. Please continue with me, without me. I will try to recover quickly the connection, but please don't be surprised if I disappear suddenly, okay? So as you know, it's time to start. We try to be very, very punctual in our sessions. Welcome everybody. Welcome Annie. It's very nice to see you
Hi,
here
Antonio.
with us.
Hi, Carol. Hi.
Today I'm sorry, I didn't update the topic I see now. So the topic is not about digital transformation. I will update it. It's about research and innovation in times of COVID. Okay, and we have with us today a lot of experts, but two that will speak at the beginning. One is Athanasios Konstantopoulos. Welcome, Athanasios.
Good morning. Hello,
Good morning.
everybody.
I will give you the floor immediately, okay? And Elena Simao de Almeida from Portugal, okay? You will have 10 minutes each one, okay, of you, just to set the conceptual framework of today's session, and later we will go to the block of needs and potential solutions. So, without further delay, Athanasios, is your time. I will give you the presentation rights.
Okay, just because it's the first time I do this, let me find out how it is actually done. So I share my screen, correct? Yes?
Yeah, not yet, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
You have a button with a screen between the mic, microphone and the video buttons.
Okay, just a moment. Let me go there. All right, yes.
Not yet.
I have clicked it.
If not, another possibility is to send to me your presentation and I can share it with everyone if you want. Okay.
It shows here that it is shared, but you don't see me, yes?
No, we don't see you. Well, we see you, but not your presentation.
Okay. Let me. Okay. Is it now better?
Now, yes. Now
Yes,
we are
okay,
seeing your
yes, all right.
screen.
So
Perfect.
let me not spend too much time. Yes, I have a short presentation that I would like to use as an introduction to another window is on top of my screen. Who knows what is happening? So maybe there is something that I'm not doing.
When you share your screen, you should choose all the screen, everything, not just one application.
Okay, so let me do that. So my screen is now showing.
No, not yet.
Now?
No.
No? Okay. In that case, let me do this again because probably it was cut down. But let me start with.
Don't worry. Don't worry. If you want, we could skip to Elaine, and you can prepare.
Yes,
your
please do so while I am.
Send it
yes,
to me.
Okay. I
if
can.
you send it to me by email, I can share it. Okay, Elaine, are you there?
Yes. Yeah. Let me make it.
I don't see Ellen. I don't see Ellen. Aurora, do you know if Ellen is coming? Aurora?
She's supposed to come. I didn't know she was going to speak as expert, but I don't see her yet here. Let me send her a message on the telephone.
I understood that you were willing to give her the floor, but perhaps it's a mistake.
No, well, no, and she was not she was not counting on that also.
Okay, no problem at all. We have a lot of experts. Athanasios, have you sent to me the presentation?
I am sending. Yes, I'm sending this by email just to make sure that I am able to talk to you, because now that I try to do the screening, is it a problem that I'm using Mozilla Firefox? Probably not.
Not as far as I know.
Yes. So in any case, I think I am sending this to you by email.
Now we are seeing.
So that
now we are seeing the
okay.
accidental
All right.
science.
All right. So let me. For some reason, it says that sharing is now paused, and I'm not able to.
No, but we are seeing your screen now.
Yes. Okay. Let me use this. What is wrong here? Start sharing. Share keyboard. Audience view. Another window is top of my shared application. Maybe it's completely messy. I will use this. Is it okay now?
No, we are seeing your a document about automatic chemical design using a data-driven continuous representation of molecules.
No, this is a completely different document. Let me send this
okay,
to
send
you.
Send me the document, please.
I'm sending this to you so that it will be easier, because it gets a little bit problematic now here. Okay, so please continue. I will send it to you
no, but while I receive the document, if you want, please introduce yourself to us.
Yes, okay? This is what I was going to say. I'm sorry. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to take part and present some views, and also thanks to Ulla for introducing me to you. I am the director of an aerosol and particle technology laboratory, and also the chairman of the board of the research center where it belongs. It's a large research center that is quite active in the area of energy processes, information technologies, and biosciences. And we have a lot of activities with the international industry that we think makes us rather unique in Greece, due to the fact that we essentially, despite the fact that we are a government supervised research center, we essentially make all of our funding from independent contracts with the international industry, as well as, of course, participating in competitive projects in the EU. So right now, the COVID presents a different type of environment in which we have to operate. Early on, we decided that we would have to take various measures in order to, let's say, be resilient in this crisis. And based on this approach that we have also started early on to interact with a lot of the companies that we have in our ecosystem. At the same time, we are also running here a cluster, sustainability cluster, clean energy and sustainability cluster, which more recently has expanded in the area of circular economy. It's called Chorus, and we would like very much also to become members of the European Cluster Alliance. This is a kind of cluster which is very different than the typical clusters that are more or less vertical clusters. This is a cluster which is a horizontal cluster. It is integrating needs and problems across many industrial sectors. The common denominator here is the sustainability requirement and the problems that appear due to the very complex nature of these interactions. Let's say the challenges that we are facing are very complex and interrelated. There is this so-called nexus that connects energy, climate, food, raw materials, and anything that we do in one area, it affects the other. This entire, let's say, network or nexus has been now disturbed very much by the arrival of the coronavirus, generating new challenges on top of the old challenges, and the need to be able to address this as researchers, as also people that are engineers and are in very close contact with the industry. And at the same time, it poses a lot of threats, because if you see as researchers in the entire environment that we face around us, everything is now about the coronavirus. All research support, all talk, all publicity. And there is a danger, one might say, that some areas might be undercut in order to be able to concentrate on the coronavirus. This is the conservative approach, or let's say an approach which is very individualistic. This is the same thing that happened, for example, when people talk that in the medical, in the health facilities, in the hospitals and so on, the coronavirus takes up all the resources, so there is nothing left for the rest that have that need. In our opinion, actually the coronavirus is just another complex challenge that gives us the opportunity to reconfigure many of the basic talents and skills that we have in these research sectors, and put them now maybe against this problem, without forgetting that the basic elements, the basic building blocks of our science and technology are universal. This comes from my particular background, that as a chemical engineer, originally we are built on the so-called unit operations. So building blocks, technology blocks, process blocks, management blocks, if you like to think, that can be reconfigured. So one example of this kind of approach had been our recent reconfiguration, for example, of catalytic particulate filters from the area of the automotive world in order to use them to abate the coronavirus infection. And other applications have to do with reconfiguring information technology applications to be able to apply them into network analysis for the coronavirus. So overall, I think despite the fact that we are facing a very difficult time ahead of us in terms of resources that will be available, problems that our industrial partners will face already, they are facing, and they will have to mitigate. And the fact that there is this collective psyche, the collective mentality of our community that has been affected because due to the lockdown, you have to have a very particular character in order to be able to continue to do your work like this group that you have here. I admire every day you have these meetings. There is a lot of energy, there is a lot of effort and interaction that it is being spent looking for solutions. But at the same time, there are several members of our community, maybe not the members that were always in the front line, but the members that are the doers, the people that are following the instructions, that they are somehow disconnected from all the activities due to the lockdown. Despite the technological advances that exist and teleconferencing and all this digital environment that we use to do our work, still the fact remains that unless you are in the laboratory and able to perform what you do, not everything can be done just digitally. So this also generates an additional challenge and additional reality that we have to address. And we have found that if we are open and without any doctrines and any other conservative predispositions, we are able to find ways or even be inspired and develop new areas or where to apply some of the existing knowledge. So here there are three elements that are very important at the level of the individual researcher. The first element is, of course, we need to be subject matter experts. We have in the past years, all of us all over the world, science has been advancing in a very deep and very specialized fashion. So we have this subject matter expertise that has been developed, and it is one of the major ingredients of the scientists. At the same time, a few of our community are also able to see the big picture. This is what we call, a big vision or helicopter view. People that are able to see across disciplines, that they can see a more holistic view of the world and the interactions and the challenges that this generates. But this is not enough, and the coronavirus demonstrates that we really need now to foster and grow a third characteristic that it is really difficult to identify or even to learn to the research community and to the innovation community and to the industrial community. And this is the element of disruption, because let's say the defense and eventually the attack against these challenges that are going to be more and more in the future, it cannot come with the same tools and the same approaches that we have used in the past. We cannot solve the same the problems with the means that have been used to generate them. So subject matter expertise, global vision or holistic view and disruption are the three traits, the three elements at the individual level, whether it is a researcher or an innovator or somebody in the market, in the industrial sector, that have to be put together, fostered, and put into action. And eventually, we think that this will be able to mobilize the entire community with the goal of being, on the one hand, resilient, on that front. Right now, we have to first of all stay alive and able to do our work. On the second front, once we have this resilience, we have to develop coherence. Coherence, in doing things together and being able to benefit from each other's both advances and mistakes. And I see this as a very good opportunity, these meetings that you have and the networking that it is being established, so that eventually we can go up to what I expect that will be happening as the optimistic scenario, to a shift in paradigm in the sense of Thomas Kuhn and the structure of scientific revolutions, that after the coronavirus, research and innovation will be different. In what way, we don't know, because this is an emergent phenomenon, but certainly it will involve much more interactions and changes, as if this brings together an additional level of complexity, an additional level of hierarchy. So the disciplines, and I will close with this, the disciplines are now not so important. What is important is to have the capability to interact with each other across disciplines, be able to mobilize maybe unorthodox solutions or unorthodox ways to address the problem, and be open in our considerations, because if we are going to survive through this with minimum impact on our economies, on our societies and so on, we can only do it using a biomimetic approach, by attacking all these different challenges, each one as it appears, but also learning from methods from one field and transferring to the other. Unfortunately, the software did not allow me to hit the email button, so I will email to you the presentation. If you take out the control of the screen from me, if you remove it, I will email to you the presentation, and if you have some question, of course, you can contact me. You can contact me later. So this is what I would like to say within these 10 minutes.
Thank you, Professor. I cannot agree more with you. Excellent exposition. This is about thinking out of the box, and we need to have this global view. Yeah. But I don't want to speak only for myself. So now we can jump to the time of the needs, and needs related to the research and innovation environment. So it's the time for your comments. 3 minutes for a speaker, and it's your time. Who wants to contribute? Celine, I would like to hear you, because you are also in the science side, from the social. Celine Rosenblatt, are you there? No? Okay. Anyone?
I can share with you what we did in Flanders if you want to.
For sure. Annie.
What we did from the government department, we made a list of all research going on, research going on in Flanders, but a lot of that research is part of European projects, just to make people aware that there's a lot going on, because people in the street are very worried at this moment. So we want to give them some comfort by showing that our researchers in Flanders are also working on the COVID-19 issue. And on the other hand, for companies, we decided to introduce at FLYO a fast track procedure, so that the research that companies want to do, making use of the actual patient population, that it can be decided very quickly. It's not for research, it's more for development projects. For example, how to transform normally used masks and things for other purposes, how to retransform them to be able to be used for COVID-19 treatment. Also for respiratory machines, for example, there's a company now transforming what they did before for anesthesia, when you are put to sleep for a surgical. So now they transformed it that it can be used for COVID-19 patients. And we support the companies with development, with regional funds. And there is a very fast procedure to decide on those projects. And then other projects, like projects not treating with the patients, but for example, on the location that you get an alarm when you come too close with people for the restart of the companies. We prioritize these projects and we treat them first. So normally it's first in, first out for funding projects, but these specific projects, we give them priority in treatment. That's the modifications we made in Flanders on research and development.
Thank you very much, Annie. Perfect. I will say that we need to focus, for sure, research is focusing on the coronavirus fight itself against the virus, okay? But we need to focus also, as Annie said, in the society and what the societal needs are now, and also immediately on the business side, because we need to recover or recreate our value chains. For that, I think that there is also very big needs in terms of how to make them more flexible, what kind of materials can cover those that we are lacking, and so on. So more needs.
Yes, Antonio, can I? Okay, sorry. Okay, I wait for Ada.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Jaime. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dolores from the cluster map. But here, I completely agree with Anastasios. I appreciate your talk, and I would like to emphasize different points here. We need to differentiate research as a fundamental research or applied research. First of all, there are two different types of research. Also, it's important to differentiate innovation. Innovation is another stage of the process. And I think that a big need is at the European level for everything, not for COVID in general, it really to define our research model at the European level. What we want to do with research. We need to imply more the companies or not, but we have the American model of research that okay, we know that they give more outcomes, but there are some constraints also about this model. We have also the Japanese research model. And here I think that each country is applying its own research model, but there is no an unified research at a European level that involves both administration and companies. I think that this is really necessary to put in debate and try to define more strategic lines in this sense.
Very good, Dolores. Jamie.
Yes, okay, it's very, very quick. It's something like what I now was speaking. Yesterday, there was a very interesting open conference here in Portugal with Carlos Moedas, that was the ex-commissioner in the European Commission for Science and Innovation. And now he is responsible for Fundação Carlos Gulbenkian, that is a very important fundação here in Portugal. And he was telling some examples like this one of the clusters. It was interesting that he was aware of that and he referred it. And he said that this coronavirus crisis is a very, very good opportunity for what I now was telling, that the research must be more in touch with the companies. The American experience is a very good example on that. And I think this is the idea. With this crisis, we have a good opportunity for the centers of innovation and the centers of competence being more in touch with the enterprise.
Thank you, Jaime. More. I like the idea of the co-evolving ecosystems, Athanasios. I like this slide. Are you seeing it?
If I can say just for 30 seconds, this is what I meant about biomimetic approach. We know that in our field, in all of our research, initially we drive with the individual that is really driven by excellence and also by ambition and other elements. Then we have, this is like the monocellular organism. Then we have the organization around the centers of competence. Now, this is where most of our activities are, as we just heard from our colleague from Portugal, centers of competence that are driven by specialization, and in fact, to have gone maybe too far too deep into this specialization that we have become somehow blind to the world around us. And now this is really the opportunity to become, to go to the third level of the hierarchy, this coevolution, where we are driven sometimes by synergy, but also sometimes by competition, because competition is also a sense of synergy at the same time. And in this coevolving ecosystem, there is no label, research, innovation, industry. We are all performing functions that are, they have all the elements in them. An example of manufacturing or industrial, let's say, activity in the research centers is all this huge effort to provide personal protection equipment that it is being manufactured by do-it-yourself and or local techniques into all the research centers across Europe. So I think we have to learn and we have to adopt a lot from the biological field, from the evolution field, in order to comply with these challenges.
So I will say that we need more flexibility, fast, quicker reaction from the research community. Would that be those two needs, two clear needs from them?
Probably. I will have to ask to Anastasios, because I also like a lot this graph. And for me, it's the co-evolving ecosystem is a clear example of what is going on now, but it's more in an innovation side, we can say, or maybe in the research in the vaccine. But it's only focused on that because it's really a worldwide problem. But I don't see this system or ecosystem in the research. Or how do you think that we can really implement this evolving ecosystem in the research activity? Maybe in the fundamental, but also in the applied. But we can say more in the applied. The fundamental, it's more basics. But
I think, if I may answer, is that actually we see this, but it is not expressed so in a scale that it is obvious. There are many non-obvious interactions that are happening when we try to use, for example, circular economy concepts, and we treat the wastes in a different fashion, or we take diagnostic techniques from one field and we apply it to another field. And I think this is something that it is evolving now. It will be, of course, facilitated by technology, by Internet of Things approaches, by anything that improves the connectivity. But at the same time, we have to go beyond the obvious, because if we stay at the obvious, the IT dominance of this connectivity, or trying to impose the requirements of one sector to another, we won't succeed. Industrial sectors where this has been going on extensively is the automotive sector. The automotive sector is, this is a good slide that you put. I was going to ask you to put it there. The automotive sector is a sector which has fast response. It is directly connected with the customer, but at the same time, it has to mobilize all kinds of resources that are available in terms of materials, business practices, even consumer behavior, but also very fundamental science, because at the heart of the automotive sector is the hardcore materials, the nanotechnologies, and so on. So really, what you just referred, I saw in this graph, we have this ongoing experiment in what I call social geography, because we have all these sectors: the education sector, the research sector, the innovation sector, the entrepreneurial sector, where each one has its complexities, it has its own, let's say, habits, advantages, disadvantages, gaps, needs. But we have to develop also, network of networks or communication among these various levels. And I think clustering is one way to do it, but the cluster has to be very holistic and more horizontal connection. I will make a comment. If you read Stuart Kaufman's, who is an evolutionary biologist, At Home in the Universe, he explains very well how the number and the density of the connections is important. So we have to really generate clusters or meta clusters throughout this experience that we have, the entire ecosystem, that go beyond the obvious and try to find potential for interaction. And this requires necessarily exchange information. Beyond the obvious means that we have to be able to go into the companies and look at the hidden, let's say, potential that exists. We have to really go beyond the core competencies that are very well protected and try to generate new opportunities. And there are a lot of these. For example, in the building sector, now there is a lot to try to develop antiviral coatings that incorporate a lot of particle technology. In the case of sustainable growth and new materials, this has been going on through the circular economy platform for a long time. But we have to also be very open about other opportunities. And one of the reasons that I am particularly happy to participate into these exchanges is that we think we can find ways to create these extra links. In this slide that you see here, I try to put what are the necessary ingredients, but the key thing here is the last one that says density, the connectivity, because everything else, talent, culture, capital, by the way, I don't think that we need a lot of money to do this. There is already a lot of resources. It's just a matter of reconfiguring and making them more flexible to use, and a lot of activities that could be reconfigured in this challenge. But the most important is this density, the networking, which has to be done in a non-hierarchical, non-structured way. I like to think of it more like a fractal. I put here, excuse the mathematics, it is a kind of statistical mechanical framework. You can move it on maybe to the next slide. Essentially it puts a mathematical description on resilience, and resilience is a property of a network that depends on its density, on the connections, on whether the connections are symmetric or non-asymmetric. It can have a very precise statistical mechanical definition, and eventually this resilience and the interaction, you can move on, it is a function. Can you move on the next slide? It is a function of looking in the field and really doing things in a different way. This is an example that I showed to you before about how we can combine knowledge from developing catalytic coatings for automotive emission control into putting them into a reusable antiviral filter that can be that has a very good performance and can be made at a very low price. So this gives them a completely different way into this dormant potential of the automotive industry, which is now untapped. There are several supplier companies that due to the non-production of many vehicles, they have supplies that could be reconfigured, for example, in this case, to make antiviral filters. But it is only meant as an example of a very unorthodox way to approach things. And of course, there could be more orthodox ways to find opportunities to collaborate.
Wonderful. I really like your explanation, specifically about the resilience. Yeah.
I mean, resilience is a property is a network property. It's not the property of an individual. It's not the property of a node. It is a systemic property. And fortunately, here, we can use the tools of statistical mechanics, the same tools that Ludwig Boltzmann developed and used, to develop the kinetic theory of gases and furthermore. So this is, very deep or very fundamental science that could be used. It is already being used, as you know, to analyze networks. Network science is an evolving and exploding approach today in many fields. But I think we maybe not it has not been used in that respect. This is just a cute slide I have put there for you to explain what I already told about subject matter expertise, big vision. These guys that are sitting there in the Rockefeller Center, they have subject matter expertise because they are very good workers to do this steel construction. They have the big vision because they can see New York through, across the horizon. And then, of course, the disruptive element is maybe today these guys are going to be replaced by these, robots that will have their own intelligence. Maybe they will organize and will be asking for robots' rights or worker rights. So this element of disruption, we have actually now to foster it and actively seek it in our communities. It has not been widely available. I agree with you about the American model. I am actually a product of the American model, so I couldn't be, I couldn't say otherwise, but disruption had been a very important element in the success of the American model. It is not maybe as widespread in more recent years due to a lot of structural problems and administration problems there. And at the same time, I think we can reinvent this new paradigm. That's why I put there Thomas Kuhn from the Structure of Scientific Revolutions. We are going to go into a new paradigm, I think, after coronavirus.
Thank you. Thank you. We should jump now to the part of the solutions. And
May I still speak about the need, Antonio?
For sure, Aurora.
What I've seen around, not only here in Portugal, but also I've heard in these previous sessions, is that there was a lot of innovation, and I don't know if all the innovation or all the will of doing innovation was done with care and carefully, but most of them, yes. All the projects I've heard about, they incorporated not only the makers, the people that have a quicker initiative and will to do very fast things, but also they've put on their groups the science, the people from hospitals, the people from those entities that do science every day. And my main concern is that being tired, because everyone has worked on a very, very fast mood, working days and nights, being tired and being released because the coronavirus is coming down, or the curve is coming down. Those people get to their lives because they have to be lived and forget this fast way and forget these links and connections they created. So I think the need is to collect this huge population data, this huge interest that people put on the table every day during this period, and not forget that, and not let them go down.
Perfect. Thank you. Selim, would you comment? Because I saw that you have been writing in the chat.
Hello, everybody. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I think that this is really the right way to take the problem. But the question is how to go from the deep, very specific questions at the regional, local, integrating all these dimensions, and the global European levels. So this is, I think, very important to take into account all these scales, and to define with the right people, who make decision makers, the right levels of decisions, and so a multi-level governance in accordance to these levels of processes that appear in the different networks, and that with this kind of analysis very well showed by Athanasios, that we can develop. And so, yes, some of the analysis we developed it with Gao that you cited, and Avlin and Argyrakis, who is in Greece as well. But
yeah, he's a good friend of mine, actually. Yeah. He's in the
so, yeah. So it is exactly the project we developed with Antonio, which is named Lattice, which is in a stage of reviewing now in Marie Curie. But we try to develop this kind of approach, and if the project is approved, of course we would contact the group, and especially also Athanasios to participate. It's very rich approach.
If I may say, in that slide, there was the network zone, but there was on the other side 3 very popular network series that, one was Casa de Papel from, from Spain. The first one was, what was this? House. The other was House of Cards, and the other was this epic saga of the, what is the name now? It's too early in the morning for me. I start to lose the memory, where in each of these, one can see the development of this, or let's say the visualization of these complex networks of interactions that people like to approach, they get in. And I think one way to really convey this holistic and complex message is also through this, making it more popularized, using the tools that the general public can understand, because we can talk about multiplex networks, interactions, complexity, and so on, and this will be just a discussion among the connoisseurs and among the specialists. But we have to be able to map these experiences into everyday knowledge, and I find out that actually I don't find out, I just try to follow what evolution makes available to us in terms of the communication strategy. So this experiment that I talk about, social geography, it is already in the screens of everybody through various tools, and maybe this is also a kind of challenge for the social sciences or the communication sciences to find a way to interact with our more hardcore, let's say, technologies to bring the message forward. So this is a time that nobody stays behind. There is a role and a contribution for all sectors of science. So this multiplex graph that I put, I think I took it from one of the publications about multiplex graphs or some website. I did it very in a rush, so maybe I don't have the reference there from the web. But the most important is I wanted to put there, the network inspiration that comes from this series.
You know that we have been invited to make proposals for the European Commission related to the crisis through the Rapid Alert Force. So my question for you is, what kind of proposals will make sense in this field? Because we cannot wait for months until, in fact, we should be quick. So if we will be able to draw kind of one-page, two-page proposals, what kind of contents should those pages have? What kind of what will really help to make a quick reaction on this phase? Because I see that the dangers here, I really like what you are saying, okay? The problem here is that we could spend years and years waiting for changing one
Antonio,
point.
if I can speak related to that, I agree, because I think that one point that arises from here is that we need more multidisciplinary education or skills. I mean, from the scientists, we are very good scientists, but maybe we cannot understand very well the business model or the business environment. So then it's difficult for scientists or researchers to apply their job to innovation because they don't understand what really needs in the business market tomorrow, not in, as you said, in 2-3 years. So I think that just make an extrapolation of each, we can say, wall from the research wall properly, and then by innovation also from innovation of companies are willing to get the answer tomorrow, and they have to understand that tomorrow maybe it's not possible, but maybe it's possible in 1 month. So I think that it's necessary to converge the different ecosystems in order in the language, because they can understand better, but also in the knowledge that both of them can understand better each other. I think that this is really important to make the chain goes correctly and really to implement solutions from the research to the market.
Karel.
Yes, my comment is pretty much in line with the previous one, and I just wanted to figure out, because this is of course very valid in these corona times probably, but I wanted to ask also the professor where the layer or the interference with competitiveness and, for example, patent right, IPR appears, because of course this sounds very much like pre-competitiveness research, but at a certain stage, of course, the business model requires a kind of a unique value proposition where the competition, of course, starts to play. And yeah, I'm not the biggest expert, so that's the first thing that comes in my mind when I see these kind of exciting research ecosystems, which are, for example, in social economy, quite normal. But I guess that in a regular cluster, definitely if it's a sectoral cluster where the members are also somehow competitors at a certain stage. So where do you see these different layers, and is there interference, or can you avoid this also at a certain stage? Thank you.
Your question is about value. How can we share the value? How can we distribute the value, and how at the same time we can guarantee the egoistic, the selfish, let's say, behavior of the individual versus the collective benefit that has to come from collaboration. I think this is the story of our lives. This is how life evolved on the planet, and I am afraid that there is no one way or monotonous, let's say, answer into that. It is a property of each local system to determine. It requires obviously a lot of trial and effort. This is why it's called genetic optimization. And what I can offer from our experience starting in the automotive, in the energy field with very large corporate. I mean, we work with the who is who in the automotive industry and in energy internationally, from Japan to the US. There is, if you dig in through this initial layer of corporate, let's say, how can I say, impenetrability or corporate skin, there are the elements in these companies, the individuals that have the capacity to understand and to be able to generate the value. This is a task for those of us that are able to bridge from one field to the other and spread, let's say, the word. It is the same task that the early revolutionaries had in the 18th century. It is the same task that the missionaries had in when they wanted to carry the message. And it is the same task that it is now being undertaken by all the social groups that are trying to respond. So when I talked before about a shift in paradigm, it actually means this. Let's look, and this is happening now in a very competitive field where all these IPR rights are somehow irrelevant because they are at a different time scale. Look what happens in blockchain and cryptocurrencies. It started as a grassroots thing. It is now being adopted by the major financial institution. There are no patents there because things move so fast. There is a huge new science that is being generated with more cryptic, with more obscure mathematics that you ever would like to imagine. It so happens that my son is involved in this and he's very active, and I find out every day that the math that we used to know or learn in our education are completely irrelevant to what these guys are doing there. And there is an emergent new science, new technology, a new economy. It's a multi-billion dollar economy or euro economy that it has been evolving in parallel of the system. And then eventually this will be fused, or it will be interacting with the existing system. Pretty much, I think, in the same way that, when Homo sapiens interacted with the Neanderthal, and then, eventually we know how this evolved. So evolution never stops. It is only a matter whether we are able to adapt at the right time, at the right place. And I think, today I'm particularly happy because I did not expect to meet these interesting comments and also people that have all these capabilities. And I think we will continue to be surprised the more we expand our horizon in terms of interactions and learning. Of course, always there is the danger of thermodynamics because chaos is able to destroy any structure. And this has been also the name of the game, the fight between diffusion and reaction, how you generate forms, and then how dissipation starts to destroy these forms. And in the case of competitiveness and of the big companies, I think right now, or in general, companies, right now is the perfect time because everybody is so much scared about the future. And being conservative, they know that it will not work this time. Being conservative is just waiting to die, waiting, to be the next in line. So I think this is a good opportunity, especially if we can bring in, one of the ladies before said that we don't know exactly about the business models and we have to interact with other sectors. I think this is absolutely necessary. We have to refine, to rediscover the Leonardo da Vinci type of prototype, a person who could be an artist, a mathematician, an engineer, an inventor at the same time. And this is, of course, a matter of education, but again, there is no time. So we learn in the field. We learn by interacting with each other, sharing the knowledges. This is where technology is important because this thing that we do now, it would not be possible. And at the end of this meeting, we will get all the information for us to read it again and reflect on it. So I think doing more of what we do, and there will be emergent behavior out of it. This is my answer. But it is already happening in several sectors. You'll be surprised how responsive are industrial partners to move on in such a direction.
Celine.
Yes, thank you very much, Athanasios. I would just wanted to add something to answer to Karel, because the value of each enterprise is can be evaluated by, of course, the market, but and the the prosperity of the enterprise itself with the different network they develop for the market. But with this kind of analysis, we can also take into account other kinds of values as the resilience properties, and making simulations with this kind of models, we can test the robustness of the different networks and their dynamics, their possible dynamics that we can really know as the kind of diffusion of, you see all the diffusion we saw in for the epidemics. Here also are diffusion of information and values by collaboration or competition. And also another dimension of values can be evaluated inside this kind of networks as, for example, circular economy can be one of the property. And so we can have different dimension of properties and evaluating how the evolution of networks can provide different kind of values. And this is very important at different scales. This is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Merci, Céline. Ula.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to thank Athanasius, and we know each other from previous work, and he's a really out-of-the-box thinker, so I'm glad to have him here with us. And I think when we talk about the needs and the solutions, I think one part is also the relations and the value of relations and the value of the networks is something which will become probably also more important, and to create more links between, as also Athanasius said, different areas. And I think this is something which we are also trying to do with this group, and which we are also trying to do to see where we are seeing how can we enlarge the boundaries of our clusters. And I think this confirms me a bit in the idea which we are having, that we really need to see that the clusters go larger than the original ecosystems we were looking at. So I think the power of interconnection was for me a bit confirmed in what Athanasius presented. Thanks a lot.
You are really welcome. Before closing, I want to welcome Marek Sir to the, I think that is your first day in the DigiGrow, could be, Marek?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Indeed, the 1st of May, the Labor Day. Welcome everybody who is working. Yeah, this is my first day in DigiGrow after very intensive finishing in DigiRegio. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Really, yes,
okay.
Yes, we are hearing you.
No, and you know, when I mean, thank you very much for this presentation, and actually it confirms our policy, which we've been pursuing for years now, particularly at the regional level, with this collaboration approach and smart specialization, which exactly this co-evolving ecosystems is extremely is the basis, and networking. The issue is in implementation and nitty-gritties and governance, because you need to have all the actors who want to collaborate, and as well the capabilities of the local governance or regional governments to be able to react quickly and bring together networks and react. So I mean, fully, I'm happy that our policies are in line. The issue is implementation and bringing together all the actors. My question would be, for example, you, Athanasios, your experience with the regional funds and your experience in being involved in this governance of smart specialization and regional level, if you ever were involved in this, because in practice it is what we call entrepreneurial discovery process. All these interactions, interdisciplinary, cross-sectorally, but this requires participatory methods. This requires very practical tools to be able to identify exactly the research needs, innovations needed, one by businesses, so that they can find quickly way to market, but another part, the social needs, which is not valued by market and the money. and this local authorities and regional authorities can play the role. If I may say, just at this, for research innovation, it's huge. I've been dealing with this for many years. We have top-down, bottom-up priorities. At this very moment, it's the priority of time, priority of big challenge with COVID. You probably heard about the call launched by DG Research, which which was for COVID, more than 100 million euro. Actually, they got proposals for 1 billion euro. So this shows as well what is the capacity of the EU research, but as well how much we can do in order to quickly facilitate the finding solutions on the basis of this capacity in the EU we have. This call is there now. Now the colleagues from DG Research are discussing as well with colleagues from DG Regio to have seal of excellence for COVID particularly, so that these funds can be more flexibly used. But what my point is, this is very complex topic. For this particular topic which we have now, and if you, my question would be one, if you were ever involved in smart specialization strategy by the regional authorities, and the second one is, if we take into account the COVID and alert function, if you want to alert from the point of view of what is the issue from the science and research, if you have the very critical research, critical science, so that it can first go into the direction which is getting further funding from EU or EU businesses and not being bought out by outside world. And the second, what are the parameters for this alert? How can it be done? And the second one, once we have the alert where the very valuable research done and is on the shelves, how can it be found out, or it can be easily discovered to be implemented by businesses, pharma or other researchers. So I would say three questions to the research committee here. If you ever were involved in regional funding, in formulating the strategies. The yes. Second, if you could tell me what are the parameters for alerting that you have fantastic research that can be used and is not used for specific social or business needs. And the third one, what could be the way to find out all the fantastic research being done in Europe, which is on the shelves? Thank you.
Let me start from the third one, which I think is the most important, because I am not, although I am member of the Regional Council for Innovation and Smart Specialization, my opinion from the beginning was a little bit unorthodox, that all this regional specialization, it is wrongly defined, because regions are not geographic regions. We should think of it in a different space, because we interact with the world. So having a very localized view about what should be the local model of production and what is, whether our customers are only in our area, I don't think it is a good way. But I don't want to waste your time on it. The answer is yes, I have been involved with regional funds, not so much though in terms of our being benefited, because most of our support comes directly from the market and from interactions with industrial partners from outside Greece. There are very small and other companies that of course we interact, but maybe 90% of our interaction comes from the international market, and we like to connect, and we do this connecting our local partners, our local industries with the international market, but we connect those that are able to live up to this challenge. And a characteristic of many regions is that not everybody can do everything, and this exercise of smart specialization, at least here, has resulted into a kind of, and everything is important because nobody wants to leave some sector outside. So there are tough choices that are at the political level that have to be made. And frankly, I don't think that regional governments are really thinking about research as a very big priority. And maybe in these times of crisis, they have also some excuse. I move now to the third question that you asked, whether there are technologies for early warning, rapid response, as you said. Yes, and in fact, some technologies that are completely futuristic, if you might say, but not so futuristic. For example, my specific field of research, which has to do with aerosol and particles, means that we could develop sampling and diagnostic technologies to be able to find out what happens in one place. We have developed exposure technology for the impact of nanoparticles on health, multicellular assemblies that you can expose to find out biological endpoints of nanoparticles from emissions, let's say from engines. This technology is now being adapted so that we can deploy it in order, for example, in a large mall or in a large facility, to be able to have a diagnostic that is sample the air, collect particles that including also the viral remnants or RNAs and so on, and then give it to the biological groups that are able to do the analysis, this so-called metagenomics analysis. At the same time, there are technologies that are involving automated disinfection. Probably all of you are now thinking that as we will go back into our normality, whether we can call it normality, how to make sure that we have this disinfection and our buildings will be protected. We cannot use too many chemicals because then we will have other problems. So there is a need to develop natural solutions or natural antiviral elements that can be dispersed. And again, there we use some technology that is a direct technology transfer from how we make nanoparticles for catalysts. And the third rapid response, of course, it involves all the IT-related technologies. There are plenty of these. There are a lot of innovative concepts, but at the same time, I just read yesterday what happens in Switzerland, that two of the major universities, they opted out of this cellular phone application because there are matters of privacy. So rapid response measures can be developed and are already developed using technology maybe from other fields, in addition to the traditional ones about protective measures. But this has to go also hand in hand with the potential of the society to absorb these measures. And we are really very actively now pursuing this, what I told you earlier, the diagnostics in large areas, in large buildings. I saw with very high interest also a proposal in the past days. I think, Ulla, it was yesterday from JRC in a discussion that was happening, to analyze, for example, for coronavirus remnants into the sewage, into the wastewaters out of the cities, so that one can have some idea of whether something goes on. So eventually, these are adapting techniques that we use for the human body, for emissions from engines in systems where we study output of systems and try to understand what happens in there. And I think Celine will fully agree with me on that. Once you have the result of such a collective, it's an integral measure over this network activity, then you need also to develop tools to deconvolute it, to go into the finer scales. And this is where modeling of a very particular type, that involves discrete agents and network dynamics can help you locate the hotspots. We see this as a combination both of hardware sensing technology, like the one I described, by sampling air and doing also active disinfection, as well as sampling more integral measures like the wastewaters and so on. At the same time, we have to make sure that we don't go into a kind of techno dominant approach like we see in the science fiction movies, because this will not be functional. So all these measures, the rapid response, has to be easily accepted by the society. And I think the experience so far, it has been, maybe I should say also some politically incorrect comment here, that not all governments or not all sectors of governance are willing to do this for the benefit of the society. Sometimes all these bureaucracies and government layers, they have as the basic task or mission their own their own survival, so to speak. So we have to be really very careful at every step that we discuss about rapid response, to take into account how this is registered by and received by the society, and not be just following a completely technocratic approach. And this is, I know, may sound strange because I'm a very hardcore technocrat, but I see there are a lot of dangers in just adopting technocratic solutions without really thinking how they would play. There is a saying that says the road to hell is made with a lot of good intentions. So we have to be really very, very careful, I think, in this era.
Thank you.
Maybe I forgot to answer. I think I forgot to answer your second question, which was what happens to with the regional funds and so on. I think regional funds has been a kind of a refuge to say we can do this with the cohesive fund, regionals, and so on. But I think this is a time that we have to dig deep into the pockets of the into the real pockets, because all these regional funds and structural funds are really very little compared to what it is needed for this crisis. And this would require, I think, in the not this so-called Euro bonds or to all this discussion that happens on Eurogroup about new financial tools or loans, but it would definitely need to have a kind of new financial instrument which is based on private participation for the research community. And maybe the clusters could initiate such an approach. This could be also a benefit from incorporating blockchain technologies, because in this time of crisis, and where we have, as you said, these very complex systems, one thing that it is missing, or the glue that it is really necessary to make things successful, is trust. And how do you build trust among systems that are not necessarily trusting each other? I think we have to really look at new tools. So maybe generating a token or using a cryptocurrency that will support the work against the COVID. It could be probably a radical proposal, but this is why we are here, to make also radical proposals, and maybe use the European Cluster Alliance as a platform to deploy such a thing. And if you are interested, of course, we can go into many more details about it.
Antonio, it's Veronica. May I just say about blockchain one thing? Because I think the last part that Athanasios said is very quickly. Just to say that blockchain had the problem before COVID, okay? It was only used for, let's say, proofs of concept, okay? Not live deployments, very, very slow uptake to the market. So the forecast was about being on the market within 10 years, okay? But it is accelerating. COVID, seen as opportunity and acceleration of innovation, has also helped the uptake of blockchain into applications related not only, of course, but the priority is to COVID, from mapping and analyzing the medical supply chains also, and other, for instance, there are coming to 3D printing, and the designs of the 3D parts and the instructions now are validated finally with the blockchain, because blockchain technology aims to verify, secure, and finally share with trust the data. Said this, I just add that a link to social dimension, so with social impact, maybe one experience that we have created. We have established a new company inside our cluster with a couple of more than a couple of members for blockchain, okay, technology. The nice idea is a limited liability company benefit. So this kind of legal entity is very new. It's recent in Italy. I don't know if in other European countries it is applied, but the original model was in the USA, and Italy applied this in its law, okay, civil law. So the difference is that, of course, it is a company for profit, but creating a shared value for the community, for the society. So the use of the blockchain technology that we are doing is aimed to create this impact. And in terms of a business model and governance, it is completely different from the model of IBM, that is a centralized model. So IBM is gathering all data of its users, and then, since we are talking about the trust, you have to trust them.
Veronica, I would propose to have a specific session about blockchain, because we go deep on that. It will be
sorry.
It's very late. I know that you are very interested, but it's very, very late. So, Karel, just 1 minute, okay, Karel? No, we cannot hear you. We are not hearing you.
I will not take my minute because it will be too much. I much agree with her. I will keep it for that.
One specific session for blockchain. Athanasios, I have a proposal for you. For sure, you will be very, very, very welcome on the European Cluster Alliance. There is a noise from, I don't know who, okay? Please put your mic off if you don't mind. Okay. You are now my official hero. We need you, okay? And
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to hear all this, good group here, and I look forward.
Yeah, we need you. Would you organize a new session inviting those people on Europe or that you think it's a key, just to go deeper on this topic?
Of course. Well, let me spend some time in the next days with my colleagues doing, and also I need to have a private session with Ulla, because Ulla is my my heroine in that respect. To go back a long time, since I was on the board of governors of the JRC in her previous life there, and we can talk, with emails about the flavor and the focus that you would like to have, so that we can be, more effective and practical. And I would be happy to organize.
You are in charge. We trust you. Okay. For sure, Celine is also there, and I know that she wants to collaborate. So please take her in. Okay, but yes, please do that. Okay.
Please, it would be also good for me to know, because I did not know this wonderful group of people before, to have maybe some contact details, or this will be published. You will send it after with email, so that I do the,
we don't publish the list, but I will give you information.
Yeah, so that I know, or if you like, those that you participate, because I see in the chat some comments and some also private emails. please send me so that I can have an idea of what you guys do, and maybe I can try to disrupt a little bit your activities with offering some possibilities, and especially if you think that the European Cluster Alliance is going to organize some type of projects or let's say initiatives, it is good to know the details of what capabilities exist. And also, I heard just before, I did not, I don't remember the name, the lady that talked about the blockchain and making new companies. It is also good. Yes, it is also good to know the activities of or the type of companies that exist, so that we could make a kind of interactions and bring players that would not think otherwise that it would be interesting for them to participate into that. I think the whole idea is to be able to engage local action with global impact, and this necessarily requires to have a little bit more time to find out what are the activities and the interests of everybody. So I will do it, and I will need your help a little bit. Maybe I send you some questions and you point me to the right information.
Perfect. You have my contact, and we will speak about it. But yeah, that will be really important. Not only wonderful, but important. Thank you very much. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you
also. Thank you, Ula. You are being great help in everything that we are doing. You are at the core, in fact. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Tomorrow we will speak about barriers and problems. You are invited to join again. Bye.
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 Thank you, Antonio. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.